For this devotional, we're going to go to Isaiah 26. I want to just share two verses that I hope encourage you, but they're really more so I want to share a personal story and just testimony for God's working in my own life, and something that I have to keep on reminding myself of over and over again. It's kind of a litmus test verse for me to diagnose whether I am trusting God or not. Isaiah 26, verse number 3, is a promise first. You will keep him in perfect peace, Isaiah 26:3, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. I came across this verse at a time in my life where I very much needed it. I needed its comfort of perfect peace, but I needed its conviction about what it actually meant to trust God. I've referenced this before on several different illustrations or mentions bits and pieces of it in sermons. But several years ago, I had left my first ministry, first pastoring in Illinois, and went back to school to get a master's degree. And we left Illinois at a very inopportune time financially. It was still where the housing bubble had definitely burst, and all the government incentives to buy a house had ended. And so nobody was buying houses, and we were attempting to sell a house. So in the laws of supply and demand, we were not in a good place. And so we were in Pennsylvania, renting an apartment there, trying to sell a house in Illinois, paying for a seminary bill off of a McDonald's salary. And month after month went by. And month after month, I'm paying a mortgage, and I'm paying for a rent, and I'm working at McDonald's and paying seminary bills. I think looking back, maybe I'm wrong now looking back, but I think looking back, we began very much excited and trusting God. But when I say that, I think we trusted God up until a point. Like, I'm back in my mind, I'm willing to trust God, but God's going to take care of it in 2 months, so we'll be okay. And then 2 months came and went, and then 4 months came and went, and 5 months came and went, and it kept on going. And it came to a point, one evening, maybe even early morning, I finished my shift, closed down the restaurant, and I was the only one up late at night doing some study for the next day of classes, and listening to some music, and struggling to find joy, struggling to not be angry at God for what I perceived as letting me down, struggling not to play the what if game. And in that moment, I was listening to a song that was about the perfect peace of God during trials. And that phrase, he will give him perfect peace, was part of the song, and it stopped me. Because I looked at my life, and I looked at my brain and my heart and my spirit, and there was nothing that could be described as peaceful about how I was feeling in that moment. And I knew the song was based upon a scripture passage. And so I found my way to Isaiah 26, and I read the promise. You will keep him in perfect peace. And that promise sounded like a gold mine. I mean, perfect peace, complete peace. And the fact that God is the one that is keeping you in the perfect peace. It's not like I'm having to hold on to it. It's God that is holding me to the perfect peace, the complete peace. And in that moment, I said, this is what I need. And so I continued to read the passage, and thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusts in you. And I went to the last phrase, and I said, well, God, I trust you. Of course I trust you. I've been a pastor. I'm training for more ministry. I uprooted my family to move here to take more classes for more ministry. Of course I trust you, God. I'm saved. And I think most of us, in most parts of our life, we would say we trust God. It's the middle phrase that convicted me, though, and it pushed me. Because the middle phrase is, whose mind is stayed on you. When I saw that phrase, I had to wrestle with the reality that I really was not trusting God. At least not the way I should. I mean, yes, on Sunday morning, singing a song, praying about God's goodness, I could say I'm trusting God. But trusting God is not a one-time thing. It is a moment-by-moment battle. And I was losing the battle. And I knew I was losing the battle because my mind was not stayed upon God. My mind was stayed upon me attempting to solve the problem. My mind was on playing through all the hypothetical what ifs. My mind was stayed upon running the same mathematical equations in my head over and over again and coming up to the same problems, negative numbers. It wasn't stayed upon God. So much of our battle spiritually is within the battlefield of our mind. What are we thinking? What are we telling ourselves in those moments? What are we dwelling on? We tell ourselves so much. We lie to ourselves. We tell ourselves half-truths about God and our circumstances. We try to fill in blanks of hypothetical futures that we don't even know. There's no way we could know. And then we draw conclusions on them. Within that battlefield of the mind is where it really shows whether we trust God or not. Trusting God is not us raising a hand or checking a box saying, I trust God. Trusting God is shown in the fruit of our life and our actions and in our own thinking. And in that moment, I had to come to the grips that even though I could tell you I trust God, my mind revealed I was trusting my own abilities to solve a problem that I was coming up far short on. And because I was not trusting God, there was no peace in my life. That was years ago, a long time ago. It is still true for me right now that when I come at times in my life where I feel the anxiety, where I feel at uneasiness, I know that my life is showing fruit that I'm not trusting God. Maybe if I wouldn't even admit it, it's showing the fruit I'm not. Because the fruit of trusting God is I have peace. And I know I'm trusting God because my mind is stayed upon God. There is so much right now within our world that is attempting to rob us of peace. There is so much in our world right now that should produce anxiety. We should be on edge. And if I can just say, church, we need to keep our minds upon God. You're not experiencing peace because your mind's not on God. So oftentimes we're trying to solve problems, and I know they're big problems, and we have to be responsible to do what we're called to do. Trusting God is not a let go and just I don't have to do anything. No, we have responsibility and we do it. But once we've been faithful to do what we're responsible to do, we trust God. And we know we're trusting God because our minds are upon God. We don't need to keep on playing over the what ifs on this and that. We trust Him. And this is a moment, second by second battle at times. For some of you, you can begin the day and pray and say, I trust God. I'm there. And then within 5 minutes, we know our minds are not on God. Our minds are not stayed on God. Our minds have now run off. And we're attempting now to solve the problems. We're not trusting God. Our mind stayed upon God because we trust Him. He is in control. He is good. He will take care of this in His perfect way. Therefore, because God has it, I don't need to have it. I have complete peace. Complete peace, perfect peace is what I pray you as a church family, we as a church family can experience right now. Perfect peace is what I pray some of you are experiencing right now as you think through your needs, as you think through your work, as you think through health, as you think through the world around you. Perfect peace because you trust God. And you know you trust God because your mind is stayed upon God. Isaiah 26:3. Church family, I want you to know, as pastors, we are praying for you. As pastors, we want to keep on putting some things in front of you to try to help us get together, even though we can't physically meet at our church property. And I want to also encourage you, thank you, that ministry is happening within the body in so many different ways. And this is healthy for us. And I'm thankful for how individuals are reaching out to each other and ministering, where ministry doesn't have to flow through just a pastor. Ministry flows through the body. And if there's anything that comes out of this, I'm praying God helps us as a church see that. We're praying for you, and we hope to be able to minister in a variety of different ways. Looking for the day when we can come back together as a church family.